on the cake? You want me to prove to you that Paul buries the doctrines of Calvinism in hell and shows that Jamila White, Matt Slick, and are Bible perverts, tools of Satan, don't know Jesus? Here you go. Paul talking about his own experience. Ready? Romans 7:7-14. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? No. May it never be. Rather, I would not have come to know sin except with law. There's the principle. You don't know the law. You don't know what sin is. If you don't know what sin is, it's not counted against you. You see it? Logic. Biblical logic. God's logic inspired through Paul. If you don't know the law, you don't know sin. And if you don't have the law, then you're not accountable for sin, even if you're sinning, because you don't know you are. See the principle? For I would not have known about coveting if the law had not said, ye shall not covet. But sin, taking opportunity through the commandment worked out in me, coveting of every kind. Now, he's talking about sin in two different senses. You ready? Here. He's talking about sin in two different senses. Sin as an action you do. What is the action of sin? Disobeying the law. That's sin as an action. When you disobey the law, you sin. But then sin as an evil inclination, an evil inkling, an evil desire that is now part of your human DNA after the fall because of Adam and Eve's sin. That's why I desire sin, because my human nature has been tainted, where part of my nature includes that desire to sin, desires, cravings of sin. So sin as a desire in you, inclination that tries to move you to sin, and sin is an action you do. You understand the two different senses of sin? The two senses of sin. Sin is an action, breaking the law, or sin as an inclination, desire that's part of your human makeup, DNA in your flesh, that moves you to sin. So now watch. Watch here. But sin, taking opportunity to command, worked out in me, coveting every kind. See, now that's that sinful proclivity, inclination, desire in you. See that? Or apart from law, sin is dead. Right there. When there is no law, that sinful proclivity remains asleep in you. Listen to Paul, not Jamila White, Anthony Rogers, Bible perverts. That sinful inclination remains dormant, asleep in you. Right there. When does your sinful cravings kick in, come to life? Now, I was once alive apart from the law. Babies are not born dead. Don't believe that lie. But when did he die? But when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. Now you see the logic of the Bible. Children who don't know the law, are not aware of the law, aware of God, that sin is asleep in them. Once they awaken and come to the realization, there's a God, there's a law, that's when that sinful proclivity kicks in and now moves them to break the law. And this commandment, which was to lead to life, God's command was to give me life, was found to lead to death for me. For sin, that sinful desire, taking opportunity through the commandment, when sin realized, as if it has its own mind of its own, that now I'm aware of God's command, and now I want to obey it because I fear God and love him, that's when its front action moved me to break it. Deceived me, and through it killed me. So the law is holy, and the commandment is holy and righteous and good. Right? Right? The law is good. It was meant to give me life. But sin in me that was dormant, once it realized I became aware of the law and wanted to do it, moved me to break it. Therefore, did that which is good become a cause of death for me? May it never be. The law didn't make me die. Sin in me moved me to die. In order that it might be shown to be sin by working out my death. Sin in me caused me to die. But wait, that means he wasn't born dead, huh, Jamila White? He was alive through that which is good. So that through the commandment, sin would become utterly sinful. Now I'm aware how corrupt my nature is. Now that I see the law, it's good and it's meant for my life and holiness. It's intended, right, to save me and bless me, not curse me, because God has my best interest in mind. So this law is meant for my good, and I agree it's good, and I agree that following law is the best thing I could do for myself. Sin now awoke. Break it. Don't do it. Go against it. And now I'm aware how utterly corrupt my human nature is. Because I see my human nature has this sinful proclivity that has a mind of its own, that's constantly fighting with me. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I'm fleshly, having been sold into bondage under sin. There you go. Exactly. That's the teaching of Scripture. So what did I just show you? Receipts. Up until a child becomes aware. And that's why there's no age. You know that? Because the mental capacities of children are not the same. They vary from one individual to another. So God knows when that child knows and is aware. So you leave it to God. Some people don't mature even in their teenage years. And then you have children who have psychological handicaps, physiological handicaps, right? Down syndrome. God knows their hearts and minds. He knows whether they are responsible or not. You leave it to God. So that's why there's no age. There's no age. But understanding this principle, that's why you have in Judaism bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah. Bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah. Bar mitzvah means son of the commandment. Bat mitzvah means daughter of the commandment, meaning that now they're mature enough to be held accountable to keep the law. See, they understand that principle. So they set the age for a man, a boy at 13, and a girl 12 and a half due to her monthly cycles. They now say, now you're ready to be responsible keeping the law. But God doesn't have an age. He doesn't say 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, because God knows the human condition better than us. He knows not all humans develop, right, at the same rate of growth. It varies. That's why God is just. So until you have that awareness that you exist for God and God exists and there's a law that he intends for you to follow, sin is not counted against you when you do not know the law. That's why Paul can say, but sin is not imputed when there's no law. Romans 5:13. Romans 4:15. But when there's no law, there's also no trespass. And that's why he says, when it comes to evil, be like infants, innocent from evil, like infants are. I had to unpack to explain Numbers 31. So if I'm right, that those boys that were killed died innocent, died before they could be responsible for sin, then God took them in a state of innocence, and the grace of Jesus saves them. They're alive. And they can never sin, and they'll never go to hell. You know, that was the passage that caused me to see that total depravity is a joke. It's a doctrine of Satan. That we're born dead in sin was Romans 7. I struggle with that. And that's why God set me free from this demonic doctrine. To interpret the Bible in light of the Bible, what seems to be cruel and having the boys killed, the virgin spared, is actually a proof of God's grace, mercy, love, compassion. Ironically, huh? Taking those boys in a state of innocence, they're alive with Jesus and can never sin, and he cuts off that particular Midianite seed to never, right, reproduce as part of judgment, like he wiped out Sodom, right? And sparing the virgins was an act of mercy. Why? Because they didn't cause the men to prostitute themselves in sexual acts, worshiping Baal, so they would now be incorporated in Israelite life, given the status of Israelite women, married to Israelite men, giving birth to Israelite children, and they would be saved. Win-win, right? Who's this? The justice of God. Don't ever, I don't know how to answer it. Yeah, God seems to be cruel. It seems harsh. If you have eyes to see and a heart full of love and trust in Jesus, he'll reward you and give you answers in time. He just wants you to be patient. You think when I came to faith, I had all these answers? You think I came out of my mother's womb a scholar? I'm not even a scholar now.